right. 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Connect or Die podcast.
What's up?
Big deal today. We got sponsored.
We did.
By the Blue Sky.
Oh, I thought we got sponsored by plain black t-shirts.
Yeah, we probably got that too.
And horn cups.
Yes, I think we're sponsored by all those things. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. No, I'm so grateful that the sun finally freaking came out. It's so sick.
It's made a huge difference.
Yeah.
I just feel, I just think it's really cool. I've been thinking a lot, just as Easter came and it's spring, just about the natural principle of things dying in order for something new to take its place. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. And I've even felt that in my own life several times. And I don't know, something about this year, it just kind of brought that principle really to my mind. I'm like, wow, yeah, sometimes things do have to die in order for something new to take place. And I think that's a good segue into our topic today.
Totally.
Because
I'm excited to talk about this.
If I'm going to be honest, when it comes to pornography and helping individuals who, I'm just going to use words that other people might describe, other people who struggle with an addiction to pornography. I'm getting kind of tired of the rhetoric. I think the rhetoric around it needs to die. Yeah. Because truly, I believe that the way we're talking about this subject right now is actually feeding the addiction. Right. But let's kind of just dive into it and talk about it. So today we're talking about pornography.
Yeah, today's all about porn. And it's a topic that's extremely taboo. That frankly is one that there's so many lies that surround it. I think the lies are actually the part of it that has more power than obviously the objective. Like objectively, a couple of images or videos online, like absolutely. Not a couple, millions of them, but there's so many lies that surround it, and there's so much silence around it that it creates a power of its own. Yeah. Because I know I struggled with it before. And I don't know if struggle is the right word, but
it's been a part
of my life since I was very young. Yeah. Since I was 8 or 9 years old is when I first saw it, and it wasn't something that I think we've talked about this in the past. It wasn't something that I actually knew was wrong. Mm-hmm. Until much later. Yeah.
I think before we get into it, I just want to make it clear that I'm not a supporter of pornography.
Totally.
I don't support pornography. I'm not. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm anti-pornography. I mean, it's just, for me, I've gotten to this space where what I really want to do is, if there's an individual who's using this substance, let's just call it what it is. I mean, this material, and they don't want to continue that practice, I'm in a space where I just want to help people. Totally. I want to help people who are stuck in patterns to eliminate the patterns. And so that's my motivation in speaking today. It's not to support pornography. It's not to support any of the things that are connected with pornography, like sex trafficking and things like that. I'm just concerned about helping individuals to break patterns that they don't want to be victims to anymore. Yeah. And so I think that is an important place to start. Is I was 6 years old the first time I saw pornography. Went over to a friend's house with my brother, and we ended up going from our friend's house to another person in that same, on the street. We go up into the kid's room, and a magazine comes out. And I don't never necessarily even remember exactly what my thoughts or my feelings were the first time I saw it, but I think I can speculate a little bit. Yeah. I think there was absolutely a part of me that, and this might trigger some people, but recognize the beauty of it. Right. Because let's just be honest. The human form is a beautiful thing. Right. And there was something about it that I was drawn to, which is also very natural, right? It's natural for a male, even a 6-year-old, as weird as it sounds, to be drawn to the female form.
Especially when that form has been exaggerated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, lighting, touch, everything. It's just
plastic surgery.
Objectively, it's a beautiful image, which I know will trigger some people to say, but
maybe
I think that's
attractive image.
It's attractive, sure. Beautiful. I don't
know if beautiful is the right word.
That's probably not the right word.
It's attractive.
It's attractive. There's something about it that attracts you to it, and I think that was my first my first interaction with it, I don't even necessarily know if I recognized right away that what I was looking at was wrong.
Right.
I think to a degree I recognized that, we were all huddled together. This thing was brought out of like a space that was kind of hidden.
Right.
I think I recognized that I probably shouldn't have been looking at her. It wasn't something that was intended for me. But I didn't immediately be like, no, this is bad.
Right.
Because I'm 6 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you remember anything about your...
Yeah, so I just remember I was extremely curious. I think that's how most kids are. I think that I didn't understand the female anatomy at all. Mm-hmm. And I was a little older. I was like eight or... I think I was around 8.
Yeah.
And I still remember I used to always we'd get like the Sunday paper, and there would be magazines inside of the Sunday paper mm-hmm. for lingerie, and I would take those and I would go look at them. That was like my first time,
As an 8-year-old, you'd be like,
well, yeah. Well, maybe he was even younger than that. And I remember I was looking at it, and my brothers were like, "What are you doing?" Like knocking on the door. And I threw it in the trash, and they came out. They're like, "Were you looking at this?" I was like, "Oh no!" I got caught. And that's kind of where it started for me. And so, and then I remember, when we had our first computer. I still remember like looking up some image, mm-hmm. and then I remember it was slowly like loading. It's like, oh no, is it? I'm actually gonna see
like,
it.
Whoa, yeah, is it like dial-up internet?
Right,
back in the
super
day?
Slow.
Yeah,
and then really like in terms of like pornography, as you would typically label it, that was the only time I've ever seen it has been on a computer screen. Yeah. Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I was 6. I really don't remember seeing it in particular any time that stands out to me after that. But I was around 9 when my family moved from California to Nebraska. And just with one of the friends that I got to know really well there, I would go over to his house, and it was either 4th or 5th grade, so either 9 or 10. And it was almost daily, if not... maybe a few times a week that we would go to his house, and that was just go to his computer, and that was just what we did.
Yeah.
And at that point, I definitely think that I started to understand that what I was looking at was not okay.
Right.
Not okay, that I shouldn't be viewing it because he had it in these, like, archived hidden folders on his computer, so, like, his parents wouldn't find out.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, man, well, if his parents don't like what he's doing... he's able to watch and play video games that I'm not even allowed to play, so like I can't even imagine what my parents would think. But it was maybe some peer pressure, and again I think just the attractiveness of the images as I was getting older and starting to understand more things, becoming attracted to girls even at a young age, 9, 10, and it was just, it began to be this really confusing thing.
Right.
And I think that that's a common way to describe sex at a young age.
Yeah.
It's just confusing.
Yeah.
You have all these questions, and you're like, well, I don't understand, how are babies made? That's how they're made? Like, what the, like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, and especially when it comes to pornography, I think there's already so much shame around talking about sex in general. As you describe your brothers coming in, you just feel shame, like, naturally. Like, I don't want to share this with people. It feels private,
right?
Because sex is absolutely a private thing.
Totally.
And so I think so much of the complexity of that, and where the internet came into play in terms of our childhood and how that changed the pornography
around like 5
industry.
or 6 is when it really started. And,
I just think it's kind of the perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's kind of the perfect storm to where you get to the point where pornography just became a part of my life. It became a very regular part of my life, and I don't even know necessarily why.
Yeah.
I can speculate again that I was attracted to it, that it's sex, and we're all just drawn to sex in general.
Well, and I think too that you're at that age, like, that age is an extremely difficult age anyways. Probably between the ages of 12 and like 17. And I'm it continues from there, but it's like 12 to 17 I don't know about you, and maybe this isn't the right way to put it, but I was horny all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All day, every day. Like I didn't
I
wear shorts.
I don't think that's a
you know
weird.
What I mean? I literally didn't wear like gym shorts. Or if I did, I wore like spandex pants, not because I wanted to wear spandex.
Yeah.
But because it was a constant issue.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like it just was all the time, never ending.
And I don't think that that's strange to say. I think that is a pretty common experience for most males, is that it just gets to the point where that's all you're thinking about.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Is, sex, and you're seeing girls in school, and thinking about different things, and like I was gonna just tell a funny. I mean, for me, it almost became like something I was looking for. If I could see like girls' thongs, because it was just like all the time. It was like boom, 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 like different colors, and it was. And so I just think with all of that together, you start to form and I'm not going to use the word unhealthy, and I'm just going to, because I have different opinions. I think you form a fantastical image of what sex is.
Yeah, which I think that...
Which is not based in reality.
Right, and that's where I think it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like, I think that you could say, at least for me, I think you could say with pretty good certainty that if your expectations and your idea of what sex is vastly incorrect, that's probably not healthy, especially going into a sexual relationship with a partner if you've committed to that partner.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, for me, like I ran into pornography, or pornography's been a part of my life, even after serving an LDS mission for 2 years, even after getting married, it's come back, back and forth.
Yeah.
And this, and the biggest issue with it is the shame and the silence, and like that's where it festers. That's where it becomes something that truly is. That's where it becomes extremely unhealthy.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you begin to live dual lives. You begin to you begin to think of it as something that you hate. I remember for a long time I hated myself.
Absolutely.
Like the shame afterwards was palpable. You would, you'd look at pornography and you'd masturbate, and then afterwards you're just like, you feel so terrible about yourself. And then you're like, what does God think about me? And what are my church leaders going to think? And then it gets, and then let's say that you go and talk to a church leader. This is my experience.
Yeah.
Had an issue with it. I was 22. Went and talked to my church leader, and his how would you put this? His prescription
for solving the problem
was probably the worst thing I've ever, in retrospect, it's that's the dumbest. That's somebody who has never broken a leg or seen a broken leg in their entire life teaching you how to fix your broken leg.
Well, and that's where I think one of the lies, and I don't know if you're actually going to even agree with the statement I'm about to make, so this is going to be interesting. One of the lies I think that allows pornography addiction to actually grow is the belief that it has anything to do with sex.
Yeah.
Because when I, again, LDS mission, when I came home and I got married, I just assumed that the moment that I started having regular sex, that it would just go away.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, well, my needs will be satisfied, whatever, it'll just go away. And it didn't. And when it didn't, that was when I was like, well, what's wrong with me?
Right.
What is wrong with me? And the shame cycle that continued. But even earlier than that, I remember one of the first times that I was in an interview with my ecclesiastical leader, who happened to be my dad.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for me to just say, I'm going to describe the situation, and in no way do I fault my parents.
Totally.
At all. I don't.
Yeah.
They were doing what they believed was best, and helping me to live the best life that they believed they could. And in many ways, they've succeeded. My parents, I am truly, truly blessed. But I'm a 14-year-old kid. I'm sitting at my kitchen table with my dad early in the morning on a Sunday before everyone else in my family had woken up. and we're doing an interview in order to determine my worthiness to move forward, right? To become a teacher. Yeah. So that I can do other things within the church that are very public. I'm helping to pass the sacrament, to bless the sacrament, prepare the sacrament at that point. And pornography comes up. For the first time ever, someone straight up asked me, Logan, are you viewing pornography and are you masturbating?
Yeah.
And I froze. Because in my mind, what happened was I could either be honest and jeopardize moving forward in my progression in the church, which would be a very public thing.
Right.
When all the other young men would be passing the sacrament, right, as part of the church ceremony, I would be sitting with my family. And my dad was the ecclesiastical leader. Like, everyone would see me.
Right.
And they would, or at least that's what I thought as a 14-year-old, that they'd see me and they'd be like, well, what's wrong with Logan? Like, is he, whatever, speculating. I just didn't so it was either that or I lie.
Yeah.
I straight up just lie to my dad, to my ecclesiastical leader, and move forward, progressing, even though I'm not worthy.
Right. And that's
to put a 14-year-old in that circumstance. Even looking back now, I don't know if I could ever make. I hope that I would tell the truth and face the consequences, but again, as a 14-year-old, the formative years where you're trying to figure out who you are, what life is, how to fit in with your community, that's a tall order.
Right.
For a 14-year-old to tell the truth in that situation. Right. And again, I'm not trying to justify.
Right.
I'm trying to be honest to what I believe happened in that moment.
And I don't think that's a unique story.
No, I don't.
I think that I had a very, very similar experience, and because there's this part of you that you, and I think that we feel this our whole lives in regards to our parents and in regards to people that we look up to. We don't want to let them down.
Absolutely.
And, there's, and especially around pornography with us as we were growing up, there was just so much shame around it.
Well, the words used like it's a plague, it's a disease, it's the thing that's destroying marriages. It's, if you're involved in this, get out of it right away. But in order to get out of it, you have to be honest.
Yeah. And then, but the consequences, like, it's like if you sat down with a 14-year-old. This is the way I think about it.
Yeah.
And you said, hey, in 10 years, I'll give you $1 million. Or I'll give you $100,000 right now.
Mm-hmm. Seriously, no, that's a good point.
Like, it has to, because it is something that feels good. It's something that feels natural. It's something that gives a release of stress. Yeah. It's something like it.
I was taught in school that it was natural.
Right. So I was in Utah, so it
so you weren't taught.
Yeah. Okay. We didn't even talk about it.
Well, I don't know if they necessarily taught me, but I remember reading like masturbation is a natural part of growing up, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. See, that was not the case.
That was not the case for you.
Yeah. Which is I still remember when I was like I was a junior or senior in high school, and I talked about it with some of my friends. That was the first time I had a conversation with someone other than like myself in the mirror.
And how did that go?
We just laughed and joked about it. It was like during lunch one time. Mm-hmm. We like told some stories and laughed. And I can't, like, that actually was a very good experience for me to find out that I wasn't alone, because the whole time I thought I was alone.
Oh yeah.
Because, it's just there is a lot of outside pressure to lie about it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think its most unhealthy roots are formed.
Yeah, in the fact that you're not honest about it.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up, looking at my older brother, just like wondering, like, is Landon having the same thing too? Like, and looking at my younger, at least he dealing with this too, and just again, feeling like I was alone because no one talked about it. And the only time it was talked about, it was to rail on it and about how terrible it was.
Right.
About how it was such an evil thing, and it was like, okay, well, this is almost like a daily thing for me. Like, what does that mean about me?
Yeah. Well, and the trouble with telling lies like that is, I mentioned this earlier, but it splits you in two.
Absolutely.
You
live a double life.
You live a double life. You know, and then anytime there is a conversation about it, there's so much shame. Like, I remember I was asked one time, I don't want to go into the details of the situation, but like, this person was like, just like say it, and then you can begin to like release it. It was like this whole thing. Mm-hmm. This was actually later in my life.
Yeah.
So when I was like 21, I literally couldn't open my mouth. There was I couldn't, that was the first time in my life I'm like, I can't speak.
Yeah.
I can't say that. Because there was so much shame wrapped in that. It was literally like it was holding my mouth shut.
Yeah.
It was I couldn't say the words. And I think about that. I think about that experience. I think about the fact that if we were to attempt to have this conversation 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I wouldn't be able to have this conversation.
No, I would pretend like I wasn't even part of it.
I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of people, they probably struggle with it.
Or I would be like, oh yeah, there was a time, back in, when I was younger, but no, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good now.
Good now.
I'm perfect.
It's even though it was like yesterday. I'm like,
yeah.
But seriously, and that's where it grows, and that's what I'm saying. It's not about sex. It's about that.
Yeah.
It's about that. It's about the disconnection. It's about the shame. And I think it's important to talk about this. So have you ever seen the emotional vibrational chart?
Oh, sure.
Where enlightenment's up here at 1,000, and then it goes all the way down to 20. The lowest of the low is shame.
Yeah.
And 0 is death.
Yeah.
0 means you're dead. And as someone who I feel pretty acquainted with shame.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of my life feeling that emotion about myself, hating myself because of the things that I was participating in, particularly pornography.
Yeah.
And what happens when you're vibrating is you want to just die, essentially. You don't want to connect with people. You don't want to be alive. You don't want to do the things that a person who's alive does.
Right.
And so you sink into yourself. You constrict.
Right.
And that's why the chart actually goes like this.
Right.
Because there's an opening that happens when you become honest. Because then you open up yourself to confidence.
Yeah.
You can become even confident in the things that you're weak in. To be able to say, hey, this is a reality in my life. It's not what I want, but it's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to shame myself for that. Even if that's what makes you comfortable. I'm just not going to. Because even though this is part of my current reality, it's not where I want to go.
Right.
And I know that if I stay here in the shame, it's never going to change. But if I try to reach for something higher, reach for something better, believe something better about myself, I can actually start to move forward. I can actually get to a point where porn isn't controlling my life.
Right.
It's not the thing I think about all the time. In fact, I realize today, I think about porn way less than I did when I was a 14-year-old kid trying every single day to fight it.
Right. Well, so there's two things that I think would be interesting to talk about in terms of porn with disconnection, because I think about it way less than I did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I think about it way less than I did a year ago.
Yep.
And the only difference is I've focused on connection versus disconnection. Because if you want to know what you're doing is disconnection, is if you're in the middle of it.
Yep.
You get a phone call from someone you love that you haven't talked to in a while, and you instantly hit decline.
Yeah. You're like, I don't want to connect.
No.
Because they will ruin it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not, because if I sit here and talk to my mom, I'm not going to want to go back to that.
Yeah. So if you instantly hit decline on your phone, or you refuse to take text messages, or you don't like you hear someone and you don't want them to know you're there, like those are signs that you're disconnected.
Yeah.
And that is what is
That's
so
the disease.
unhealthy.
That's the disease.
Yeah.
Porn is the symptom.
Totally.
And I think that that's incredibly important to understand the difference, is because then you can start to actually change.
Yeah.
Instead of just changing the behavior and getting to the point where you're sober, you actually cure yourself. You heal.
Right.
You invite healing into your life. And yeah, I had a thought.
And so this is where we can kind of get into this talk around creating enemies.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Creating enemies.
Yep.
So
we've talked about that. We
yeah.
talked about the man in the sea.
Right. I think that what has happened with pornography is a lot of people with good intentions who want it to go away, who want people to stop spending so much time in it, because the disconnection can ruin your life.
Absolutely.
Definitely
and it ruins
can.
relationships. It
Totally.
ruins relationships with yourself, with other people.
Yeah, and that duality, the lies, the deception, that ruins everything.
It does.
And so I think people with the intent to make that end have made it the enemy.
They've attacked
and
the
have gave it power that it never had.
Yeah.
And so that's why like for example with like the porn kills love or fight the new drug movement, right? Porn kills love, fight the new drug. Those are two ideas of this fight of
that there's a war.
That there's a war going on. And I just don't think that it has that kind of power.
I don't either.
And I think that, obviously there are good things about finding out all the consequences of the symptom.
Yeah.
I think there's positivity in that, right?
Absolutely.
Like understanding,
that when you view porn, it does this in your brain.
Right.
It's causing this thing. Because of that, it has the capacity to be addictive.
Right.
In the same way that anything that releases dopamine would be addictive.
And that some of the actresses and the people who are participating in it are extremely damaged and hurt by it. Mm-hmm. Understanding those things, I think, is not a bad thing.
Sure.
But that does not equate to people getting over it.
Yeah.
Leaving it behind, beginning to step into a new place.
And not only that, but it doesn't help individuals to step out of shame.
Yeah.
That's because... And
I think it increases it.
It increases it, right?
Yeah.
Because if porn kills love and I watch porn, then I am now the murderer of love in my own life.
Right.
And I agree with you that it just doesn't have that power. But I believe in the law of the universe that says with every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if I say porn is the enemy, my enemy, then my action is to say porn is the enemy. Its reaction is to rise up as an enemy equal to the power that I give it.
Right. And
if I fight, you know what it's going to do? It's going to fight right back.
Right.
It's going to fight right back. And porn, this again, might trigger people. Porn is just images.
Yeah.
That's all it is. In comparison to the human spirit, like the ingenuity, the power, the connection, like it is nothing. It is nothing.
Yeah.
Like sex is something. Sex is a beautiful thing. And that's one of the things that makes pornography so complicated is that it's using that.
Right.
It's using that attractiveness. It's using that natural attractive force between masculine and feminine that makes sex beautiful.
Right.
And it's feeding off of that.
Yeah.
But people look at the porn industry and like, well, they're the enemy. We need to destroy it. The reality is the porn industry exists because it's giving people what they want.
Right. Right.
And what people want is disconnection. Saying porn kills love to me is as ridiculous as saying Netflix kills love.
Yeah. Saying
porn kills love to me is as ridiculous as saying bread kills love.
Yeah.
Right? If you eat too much bread, you're going to get fat and then no one's going to love you.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's ridiculous.
Right.
It's a symptom. But there's a greater disease behind it. And if we can help empower people to move past that,
right,
then you might see less power given to the porn industry. You
well,
might see it decrease.
If you fix it at the root, then everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing that, and a lot of this is speaking from personal experience, but there's also been a lot of study on connection and how it affects things. Connection literally is, if you are 65 years old, whether or not you live the next 40 years has everything to do with connection. There are strong correlations between people who live a long time and their connections with those that they love. Yeah. If they don't have connections, people just die. That's why babies pass away in the Soviet Union, right?
If they had
children that were perfectly fed, perfectly, had plenty of liquids, they had plenty of food, they had all of the things that would shelter, all the things that would technically
for another
life.
Animal,
right?
They would be able to survive on that.
The kids would just roll over and die.
Yeah,
because of a lack of connection. They came into this life and they're like, I don't have any connection. I'm out. No thanks. And so as we begin to connect, the symptoms take care of themselves.
They do. And if we go back to the vibrational chart,
right?
What is enlightenment? The act and the process of enlightenment. Yeah. When I become enlightened,
right,
it's when I connect myself to something bigger than me.
Right.
Whether it's another person, whether it's life as a great whole, whether it's a truth. Yeah. I become enlightened to this new perspective. I'm connecting to it. I'm saying, this seems like it's part of me almost, but it's also outside of me. It's a different entity. And I'm choosing as an entity to connect with that entity.
Right.
And there's life there. That's why when we feel the sun, there's life. And when the sun's not away, we feel death. And we
right.
Right. And so I think there's a reason why enlightenment and shame are at opposite ends of the spectrum. Is because it's literally connect or die.
Yeah.
Connect or die. And
because you're not... Life never allows you to stand still anyways. Mm-hmm. This is like a general principle that's always true. That's why in Matthew it says, from those who have much, more will be given, and from those who have nothing, everything will be taken. Mm-hmm. Because you can't sit still. If you're listening to this and you're spending a lot of time in pornography and you're lying to yourself, you have to start telling the truth.
Yep.
And if you can only tell the truth to yourself to begin, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you don't, that's why everything is taken. Is not because pornography in and of itself is this terrible, malevolent entity. Mm-hmm. It's because the shame and disconnection that is born out of it,
that you're giving to
that
it,
you're giving
and
to
using
it,
it for to feed.
That's a good question on why. Like, why do you want to disconnect so bad? What's going on in your life that you want to disconnect from? And maybe you've got damn good reasons.
Absolutely.
Maybe you're at a job you hate. Maybe you have people around you that
maybe you recently lost loved
ones. Maybe you're stuck around negative people. That's like you have to begin to get out.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that that you have to completely disconnect from those people, but you need to get positivity and connection in your life, infused in your life as much as you can.
Like, listen to some reggae music, get some positive vibes in your life.
Yeah, or just like one thing that I think this is a pretty good solution is as you have to begin to observe your mind the way that it works. Mm-hmm. Not judging it, not thinking that it's evil, that it thinks certain things. Just observe it.
Yep.
And then when you observe disconnection, because you'll feel it. It's a feeling of weakness. It's a feeling of
I don't want to talk to anyone. I can do this myself. Like,
that's the time that you need to get out. You need to start moving. You need to go and talk to someone, even if it's the grocery, even if it's a grocery store.
Yeah.
Just go and connect with someone, and see. Do a test. Like try these words out.
You'll see that I think, and I've seen that. You'll see that the moment you have a genuine connection with another human being, your desire to turn to that thing, it doesn't necessarily always go away completely. Yeah. It really depends on how
maybe you just push it off for a few hours.
Yeah, but still, that's a recognition that it is changing. It's taking power away from the thing that you're using to disconnect. I think one of the most impactful things that I ever did, and I'm going to describe this, sorry if this makes anyone uncomfortable, but like normally when I participated in like pornography, masturbation, it was all disconnection.
Yeah.
Until the moment it was done, and then all the feeling came back of shame. And part of me even started to feel like as I've looked back, that I was going to that thing just so I could feel shame. Because I was feeling so much shame in my life that it was getting to the point where I was getting, I think, close to emotionally just being dead inside. Not being able to feel anything. And so using pornography and masturbating and feeling shame, that was the only time I felt something. Even though it was something I didn't want to feel.
Right.
It was like, that was my high. Shame was my high because I was vibing so close to zero.
Right.
To feel 20 was at least better than where I was.
Yeah, it was something.
And one of the most pivotal things for me was one moment when I was participating in that, I just decided to be like, I wasn't going to disconnect from it. I was going to be present in what I was participating in. And that was, just like you described, to be able to sit there and observe myself. That was the most honest observation of myself that I think I ever had when it came to pornography and masturbation. And immediately the thought that I had was, this is beneath me. Yeah. And that's not shame.
Yeah. That's actually empowering.
It's something along the line.
Yeah, it's
this
something
is
that
beneath me. I'm literally sitting
because
here.
Instead of thinking there's something wrong with me.
Yeah. I'm like, there's something wrong with this.
Yeah.
I'm literally sitting here watching another couple have sex and I'm simulating it on myself. I'm like, there's something very pathetic about that, and I'm not pathetic.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is beneath, and that was like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that began to shift my whole paradigm around how do you actually help an individual out of something?
Yeah.
You empower the individual. You don't go and attack the thing, because the reality is everything that we do, say, our interactions with people, it's 100% about us. Yeah. And so if I'm participating in pornography and someone comes and says their rhetoric to help me to heal from it is, it's this, it's contributing to sex trafficking, it's doing all these things, it's destroying your marriage, it's all this stuff, I'm not going to be able to say, well, they're just talking about that. Yeah. I'm naturally going to say, they're talking about me. Right. And I'm going to tear down my identity and who I am in order to fit with that. It's like, well, I guess I'm contributing to sex trafficking. I guess I'm contributing to rape culture. I guess I'm and that becomes a shame cycle that I think ultimately it is. Kids connect or die. Right. And it becomes very difficult to lift yourself out of that pattern, but I know it's possible. Yeah. I know it is. Yeah. And for me, one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do, but one of the most liberating, is to be fully and completely honest with the person that means the most to me. To the point where every single time, if I use it, boom, hey, this happened, and there's no shame on the other side. My fiance recognizes and understands it has nothing to do with her. It's not because I don't find her attractive. It's not because our sex life isn't satisfying. It's because that there's this pattern that has existed from the time I was 9 years old. Right. And it's not gonna die easy. Yeah. But if I have anything to say about it, it will die. Because it's not a practice that I want. Right. And the best way I believe to make it die is to empower me. Yeah. To the point where any time that I participate in it, I get that feeling, this is beneath me. Yeah. This is beneath me. This is beneath me. This is beneath me. Till eventually it's like, why am I doing this? Yeah. What am I getting out of this? Yeah. I'm getting nothing. I feel like it's beneath me. It's taking energy. It's taking time. It's taking focus. Right. Where I could be focusing all of that into other things. Anything else. My relationship with the person. My sex life with that person. Working out. Literally anything. Yeah. Music. Anything. I think the idea of there's only a few resources that are finite. There really are. You can make more money, you can build another house, you can find a new career. Those things are not finite. But there are two that are finite. Energy, the amount of energy that you have. Yep. Time. Yep. That's what makes that practice, if it is something you want to give up,
those are two things that are finite that you're not going to be able to get back.
Yeah.
So if you begin to see it as disconnection, and you're like, if I'm spending time in disconnection, it's sapping my energy and it's taking my time, both of which I can't get back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you, like, it's not this place of like, it's this evil thing that you have to get rid of, because if you make it that way, it will be so.
Yep.
But as something that, it's funny because you almost become disconnected from it. Like, because connection becomes a part of it, you're like, hold on a second, is this worth my time?
Yeah.
Is this worth my energy?
When people used to say the word porn,
yeah,
my energy would go crazy.
Oh, my heart would start pounding. I'm like, let's not talk about it.
They know me. Like, they see me, like, somehow. You know, like, there's so much focus on it.
Yeah.
And what you focus on expands. But the moment you stop focusing on it, you're like, wow, there's so much else to think about.
Yeah. There's so much else to do.
Yeah.
There's so many other things that you can do, that you can spend your time in. And you can begin to take that energy and move it. And that's where, you know, I know we've mentioned this book before when we had the conversation about sex, but the way of the superior man, if you are a man listening to this, it doesn't matter what, you know, sexual preference you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a book worth reading.
I think for anyone. Even for a woman.
Yeah, because you begin to understand what's going on with that relationship. What I think that David does such a good job in that book is honestly portray your sexual essence and begin to understand it, and begin to understand that, like, that is energy that you're giving up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think that this conversation is one that is not being had, at least that I have been able to see. And it's every time I hear about pornography or I listen to someone talk about it, typically it's someone who, frankly, there's been quite a few times that it's someone who's never struggled with it, someone who's an older generation that just never dealt with it.
Or they dealt with it in the forms that they dealt with it in that generation.
Right.
And I'm just going to call it what it is. The internet changed it.
Yeah.
The internet changed it. And to say, well, I saw magazines and all that stuff. I get that. Yeah. Absolutely. You have a certain understanding. But if you haven't, I mean, that's like saying...
You haven't walked around with it in your
poker
pocket.
Versus video poker. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever... I've studied pretty recently, like, the differences between the addicted levels of actually playing poker with physical people versus the video.
Yeah.
And there's something about it that, like, keeps people going. People will spend way more money playing video poker than they will playing actual poker.
Wow.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
But there's something about the internet that changed. I mean,
yeah.
Just look at how much money the porn industry has made over time. I'm sure that when the internet came out, it spiked. I'm just going to say that. And that totally means that the users went up, the use of it in general became, you know, greater, more accessible. The fact that a 9-year-old could even get to the point where they're seeing it with that much frequency and that much variety. That's the difference. You get one magazine, you've got one magazine.
Yeah.
You get the internet, you have every magazine that could ever possibly exist.
Right.
And so...
Well, and so speaking about the internet, one thing that I found super interesting is there's a lot of people going around talking about how terrible the internet is, that it's ruining kids, right? The internet's a sword with two edges.
Absolutely. It's a tool.
It's a tool. That's all it is. And it's got two edges to it. And one edge can actually empower and connect more. Me and Natalie just sent a book to the UK. So my children's book, Grow, we sent a book to somebody who found us online, liked what we were doing, and bought our book. And I was able to ship it to him.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is insane. I've sent like 8 or 9 to Denmark. I've sent a couple to Germany. I've sent a couple to Finland, like Canada, all across the United States. And I would never get a chance to connect with those people. I'd never get a chance to hear their story, to hear why they wanted to buy it. And that's a cool experience, and that's extremely positive. I look at my wife, Natalie.
So what you're telling me is the internet can actually be used for connection?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. It's all just how you use it.
Yeah. And the trouble is we got this tool. No one had any idea of what the heck it was. They had no idea how it works and how it would affect everything. And they started swinging that sword around.
Yeah.
And then people saw the sword hurting people, right? The tool hurting other people. And they said, that's terrible. That's bad. So I understand where it came from and why it's been given so much power to disconnect. But it doesn't have to do that. No. People are literally listening to this on the same device that they can use for disconnection.
Absolutely.
And I hope that this is a way to connect.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we did this podcast.
We do our best to be honest. I mean, that is my intention whenever I talk to you.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have had experiences where we'll be together around other dudes talking about things, and I can tell like the level of honesty with which we talk about particularly pornography, it makes other people uncomfortable.
Right.
I'm okay with that though, because that's exactly what I believe needs to happen in order for the people to realize, in comparison to who we are as humans, these things are nothing. They're nothing.
Yeah.
And we are the individuals who get to choose how to manipulate and use tools in order to better our lives. And unfortunately, those same tools can be used to destroy our lives.
Right.
And that gets to become our choice. And I think the more that, at least for me personally, I feel like one of my purposes in life is to help people to understand those lines. The truth of what the line is. If you want this thing to be out of your life, you absolutely 100% have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. But the only way you can do it is to begin to tell the truth.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is to stop lying. I feel like, it's funny because this is a constant in our podcast.
Oh, yeah, we
always
constantly
talk about it.
It's like everything always gets to this point where we're just like, what else is there to say?
Just tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Seriously, and it gets to be that simple.
Yeah.
It really does.
Not easy.
No.
Simple.
Oh, no. Never easy.
It's the hardest. Yeah. To tell the truth, or even like, and get to telling the truth where you tell it all the time. Even when you say like a little lie, you're like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I only did that. There was 2, not 3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I increased it. And begin catching yourself in those and just tell the truth. What's wonderful about that is, first of all, your stress level is going to go down significantly. It's going to go up first. But over time, it will go down.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to remember all your lies. That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
And then...
and not only that, but I think lies... The results that come from lies, they don't ever really help us learn.
No.
Because you can never say, well, I got this result because of this true thing. Because you're like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The lie in and of itself does not exist. It doesn't have matter. It doesn't have substance. When you tell the truth, you are taking something of substance. And then something of substance can be manipulated and it can be changed and you can learn from it. You can observe it. You can't observe nothing. Yeah. And that's what a lie is. A lie is nothing. It is nothing.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's not based in reality. It doesn't exist. And that's why it's so dangerous, is because if you continue in a pattern of disconnection, which sows lies into all of our life, you die. Because your life amounts to nothing.
Yeah.
0. And the opposite of that is beautiful. When you tell the truth, which is woven into connection.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to put this out there. If you have ever told a lie to a person, did it breed connection or did it not? Like, have you ever seen connection come from a lie?
No.
I've never seen connection come from a lie.
It will solve a problem. Hey, come on in.
Jess! What's up?
We're just finishing the podcast. But it will solve a problem immediately. Yeah. So once again, I'll give you $10,000 now, or $1 million in a year.
It's like a side
right.
It gives you a little detour.
Right. And so it makes it easier in the moment. But over time, it takes everything.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think it goes back to that principle of, from those who have everything, more will be given. from those who have nothing, everything will be taken.
And I think my entire life when I read that scripture, I believed that, and I don't know necessarily, but I believe that it was like God being like, okay, well, I'm going to take it all from you.
Yeah.
I've come to understand, I think that's the natural consequences. Those who have nothing, those who live their lives in the foundation of nothing, will have nothing.
Yeah.
And those who live their lives on the foundation of something, everything, will have more created from that, because the substance will create more substance. The nothing can create only more nothing.
Yeah.
Something cannot come from nothing.
Well, and this is maybe where we'll finish up. I know we got to close out here. But if you want evidence that this principle has been taught, like, let's say you're like, hey, I'm not down with Christianity. Okay, well, let's go to Norse.
Absolutely.
I just finished reading Norse mythologies.
Seriously.
Guess what happens to Loki? Who's the master of lies.
Deception, yeah.
Right? He ends up tied up with a snake above him, dripping poison onto his forehead. That's where he ends. And not only that, what I find interesting is he not only hurts himself through his lies, but the woman who loves him has to hold a bucket over him trying to keep the poison off his head. Until she gets so exhausted. She's the one who suffers the most. And so this isn't something that... This is a principle that is taught throughout the annals of history. And we could pull up all the mythologies we want.
Absolutely.
And I guarantee you there's an example of this. And so, porn is not the problem, but your disconnection is.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Start telling the truth.
Tell the truth. And
you'll
get to the truth. You'll get to the truth of who you are and what's going on in your life, what you have the power to do. And that's when life has the beauty that it's meant to have. So, yeah, I think it's a good place to end.
Yeah, awesome.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening to our podcast, for being a part of the Connect or Die Nation. Make sure you subscribe to this page, hit that bell so you can get all notifications when we have new podcasts. In the description is all our different social media accounts. You can go and follow us there. And remember to be honest and go out there and connect.